Tonight, counting down to Australia's first Queen. It's all about Mary. We're live to Copenhagen. Iron men and women go from racing to rescuing dozens of swimmers at Maroubra. 2 killed as a plane plunges to the ground metres from a golf club. Parents push for the return of back-to-school vouchers. Plus, tennis legends return to Melbourne Park as Novak Djokovic prepares to begin his title defence at the Australian Open.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. In just a few hours' time, we'll have our first Australian-born Queen, the girl from Tassie, Mary Donaldson, taking over the crown in Denmark. Following a love story that began at the Sydney Olympics, she'll be by the side of her husband Frederick as he ascends the throne vacated by his mother. Our country and theirs celebrating her ascension.
A final run-through fit for a king and queen. Rehearsals at the Christiansborg Palace include not only the Royal Horse Guards, but a stand-in carriage for the one that will carry one monarch in and a new king and queen out.
It was exciting to see a little pre-show of what's going to happen tomorrow.
The stage is quickly being set after the surprise New Year's Eve announcement by Queen Margrethe that she was stepping down. Copenhagen streets only have a few hastily improvised nods to the royal shake-up. One that has locals queuing up is at Le Glace Bakery, which has a 150-year history of making cakes in tribute to the royal family. After selling Queen Margrethe cakes for 52 years, they've had days to come up with a recipe for King Frederick to take the cake.
We landed on this version here, which is elegant, masculine, and hopefully loved by people for many, many years.
Opinion polls show that when it comes to who's the most popular royal after Margrethe, it's Mary.
A lovely girl. She's doing it very well. The way she behaves, I think she's a queen worthy.
She's seen as Frederick's most worthy asset as they become Denmark's power couple 24 years after meeting at a Sydney pub during the 2000 Olympics.
I think people really think he will be a great king. Alongside with Queen Mary, they will make a great couple. She's helped him a lot, finding his way to prepare him to be a king. So people are really supportive of our Queen Mary.
The handover of power could hardly be more simple. Margrethe will sign a document of abdication, and at that moment, Frederick becomes King Frederick X and Mary Queen. No coronation, just a public proclamation.
This square will be packed tomorrow when the Danish Prime Minister steps out onto that balcony to proclaim the new monarchy. Frederick will then make a speech to the crowd before his wife joins him. The first time Mary will be stepping out as Queen Mary.
And there's agreement that Frederick, at 55, is taking over at the right time compared to another recently installed monarch just across the way.
We all look at the UK and look at Charles and say, he's old. So we don't want that.
In Copenhagen, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
And let's go live to Euro correspondent Brett McLeod, who is in Copenhagen. Brett, what will happen in the hours ahead?
Well, here at Amalienborg, the last-minute preparations are being made, Pete, including the arrival of soldiers in their full ceremonial uniforms for a big moment, not only in Danish history, but in European royal history as well. An abdication, extremely rare. And in the hours ahead, Queen Margrethe will leave here, followed by Frederick and Mary, to make their way to Christiansborg for the handover of power. No coronation. There won't even be a crown. It'll simply be a signing of paper. Frederick becomes Frederick X, Mary his queen. They'll then hop into a carriage and make their way through Copenhagen streets. Fortunately, even though it's chilly, it's very clear, so tens of thousands of people can cheer on their new king and their new queen.
Brett McLeod in Copenhagen, thank you. And Mary will be the toast of Australia tonight, not only in her hometown of Hobart, but right across the country. Hailing from the residential suburb of Taroona, her former teachers have today given us insight into the girl destined for royalty.
Her mother used to call her princess. Tomorrow, all of Denmark will call her queen. But at heart, the royal will always be the girl from Taroona, growing up the youngest of 4 on the idyllic coastline south of Hobart.
When you least expect it, you've got a princess close by, and now a queen.
From hockey to horse riding, she wanted to do it all.
Taroona High School was 4 years of when you really start to grow up, I think.
So David, which one was the classroom which you taught Mary in?
The classroom just up there was where I taught her class, yes.
David Perkins was Mary's Year 10 science teacher. Little did he know, 37 years ago, he was bestowing knowledge to a future queen.
She was a very good student, very capable, conscientious, hard-working and achieved very good results.
His wife Judy taught at Mary's infant school.
We're just very proud that Tasmania's the birthplace of a beautiful queen.
The Princess's Year 8 Home Economics Cookbook, still a favourite in the Perkins household.
There's the famous lamb chop casserole by Mary Donaldson, as you can see.
On behalf of all her former schools in Tasmania, the Department of Education is tonight wishing Princess Mary all the best in her new role, saying we hope the richness of her education and experiences at school helped play a part. Our Mary is how she's known here. Cheers. If you had one message for Mary today, what would it be?
We'd say we're proud of you.
It's hard to sort of fathom, really, that she's now going to become a queen.
Celebrated today in true noble fashion.
I'm a Taroona girl and she was a Taroona girl, so it's nice to be able to celebrate with all my family.
The littlest of princesses dressing up in their Sunday best.
I like that hers in Tasmania.
Mary, a fan of them as much as they are of her, Tasmania's NBL team now hoping Denmark's queen will become their official patron.
We can't be prouder of her. It's just such a fairy tale story.
There's certainly a sense of pride here in Hobart, and from the shores of Taroona to the mainland, celebrations are kicking off right around the country. From Brisbane to Melbourne, Aussies putting on festivities fit for a queen. In Hobart, Madison Scott, 9 News.
A manhunt is underway tonight after a stabbing in Sydney's inner west. Police were called to a unit on George Street at Erskineville just before 10:30 this morning. It's there they found a 52-year-old man with a stab wound to his neck. He was taken to Royal Prince Alfred Hospital where he remained in a serious condition. The federal government has pledged a major crackdown on illegal tobacco, committing almost $190 million for Border Force and federal police to target smuggling operations. It comes as a criminal turf war continues to rage in Melbourne over the control of black market tobacco.
Another tobacco shop up in smoke. The latest in a series of suspected arson attacks in Melbourne.
Explosions and the whole shop took off.
It was scary and loud.
They're like exploding grenades, little bombs.
Right now there is a war for control of the illegal tobacco and illegal vaping market, and it's taking place in our suburban shopping strips.
Outlaw bikie groups in a violent wrestle with criminal syndicates over lucrative illicit trade.
Organised crime gangs are using illegal cigarettes, tobacco and vapes as an ATM to fund their activities like sex trafficking and drug trafficking.
The government's taken their foot off the pedal, and you've allowed over the course of the last 18 months for these organised crime groups to really take hold.
Imported illegal tobacco, both loose leaf and black market cigarettes, also burning a big hole in the federal budget.
The market in illegal cigarettes and illegal tobacco costs taxpayers more than $2 billion, maybe as much as $3 billion every single year.
Australian smokers are among the world's highest taxed. Tobacco excise a massive revenue source for the federal purse. More than $55 billion to be collected from smokers over the next 4 years, far outstripping other so-called sin taxes on beer and spirits. By comparison, petrol excise will collect $30 billion over the same period. Border Force and the Australian Federal Police will receive almost $190 million to target tobacco smugglers.
To shut down this illegal trafficking at its source, it will help boost interception activities at the border by ABF.
The paradox with tobacco tax is that while it's increased every year to discourage smokers, the government increasingly becomes addicted to the revenue it generates. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
Ironman athletes have assisted with a mass rescue at Maroubra Beach this afternoon after more than 20 people got into trouble in the water. The close call, just one of 2 in our eastern suburbs within 24 hours.
25 tourists suddenly caught in a flash rip. Struggling, they were being dragged further and further out to sea. That's when a mass rescue unfolded on Maroubra Beach. In a wild stroke of luck, the country's top surf lifesavers were on hand for the Nutrigrain series. Newly crowned Ironwoman Lana Rogers was among 8 athletes who spotted the large group fighting to stay above water.
Yeah, we just had a massive rescue and lucky all of us were here still.
They reacted as lifesavers do. When the call goes out, we go into action.
The group suddenly got into trouble around 4 this afternoon.
We believe it was what we call a flash rip, which is a sudden movement of water.
The actual gentleman I rescued, it just happened so fast.
The Ironman and Woman competition has been running across the weekend and was wrapping up when the emergency unfolded. Lifeguards, athletes, all hands were on deck to bring the group to shore. Luckily, no one was badly injured. It's the second close call on our eastern suburbs beaches in the past 24 hours. At Bronte Beach yesterday evening, 4 people were pulled from the water.
They had ingested quite an amount of water. Hypothermia as well is of concern to us as well.
The holiday makers from Colombia also getting into trouble in a rip. Surfers were the first to their aid, rescuing a woman and 3 men, all in their 30s.
It was also rather confronting. I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah. Like seeing 3 or 4 people on the ground just like not moving.
Surf lifesavers then took over, delivering them to shore.
The beach was closed. Lifeguards and lifesavers had finished their duties for the day.
Emergency services swarmed the beach.
Police rescue is just pulling up now.
As police closed it down. Tonight, the warning from officials, take more care. In Bronte, Maggie Rayworth, 9 News. I'm now back at Maroubra Beach, and I can certainly say this summer surf lifesavers have been kept very busy. Now, since December 1, they've conducted an awful amount of rescues. They've performed around 53 daily rescues every day at Manly Beach, and that also includes Queenscliff and Northstane beaches as well. Now, over at Bronte Beach, it's a similar amount of rescues. At Bondi Beach, they're pulling an average daily of 98 people from the water there, so certainly some alarming numbers. Now, sadly, 9 people have already drowned at New South Wales beaches across the state. Now, tonight, Pete, the advice really is to stay between those red and yellow flags and be extra careful around the water.
OK, Maggie, thank you. 2 men have died in a light plane crash in Queensland's scenic Ream region. Police say the aircraft was returning to the Boonar airfield around 90 kilometres south of Brisbane before the tragedy unfolded just before midday. Several golfers witnessed the crash.
It absolutely is near our community here in Boonar, and we are very grateful that even though we have lost 2 lives, that it was not far worse.
Aviation investigators are now looking into the cause. US President Joe Biden says he's delivered a private message to Iran after 2 days of US-led strikes on Houthi bases in Yemen. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in cities around the world calling for a ceasefire, as this weekend marks 100 days since the start of the Israel-Hamas war.
2 targeted strikes in 48 hours, wiping out Houthi military assets in Yemen. Satellite pictures revealing scorch marks left on a radar site at Sana'a Airport and shelters destroyed at an airfield in Hodeidah.
Send a message to Iran in the face of all these attacks from the Houthis. We're delivering it privately and we're confident.
The strikes hit 90% of their targets, damaging the Houthis' ability to carry out complex missile and drone attacks.
There were over 150 precision munitions employed on over 60 different targets.
But US officials say the Iran-backed militants remain capable of firing at ships transiting the Red Sea, attacking commercial vessels in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, causing havoc with the crucial shipping route. 100 days since the October 7 attacks, thousands took to the streets of central London and Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C. to call for a ceasefire.
The White House has been trying to separate the strikes on Yemen from the Israel-Hamas war, but protesters here say the two are inextricably linked and they fear a wider conflict.
I mean, I think it seems like a pretty thin veil to try to portray that it's not connected.
You don't want the war to escalate, stop bombing people. That sounds like an escalation to me on our behalf.
In Washington, D.C., Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Opposition leader Peter Dutton has vowed to use an upcoming by-election to challenge the Albanese government on its cost of living credentials. The Liberal Party has pre-selected local mayor Nathan Conroy to contest the outer Melbourne seat of Dunkley, which was held by Labor MP Peter Murphy, who died in December from breast cancer.
This is an opportunity for people in Dunkley, for Victorians, to send a very clear message to the Prime Minister that he's not doing the right thing when it comes to their family budgets.
A date is yet to be set for the by-election. The sun was out for what has been a successful opening day at the Australian Open. Bumper crowds swarming Melbourne Park, with ticket sales surprising organisers.
A new beginning for the Australian Open. Thousands taking advantage of the Sunday start to the tournament, and the enthusiasm is infectious.
Oh, we're happy Australian Open. That's exciting. Yeah.
I want to see them dominate people.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie!
But fans came to support their favourites from all over the world.
Go the Greeks!
Yannick Sinner is a really good tennis player, so we are here for support him.
And this is what the competitors are playing for. Yvonne Goolagong won 50 years ago, and she wants an Australian to lift the cup this time too.
Obviously, Alex de Minaur. He's been winning a few tournaments.
Andre Agassi missing his wife, but happy to be back in Melbourne.
The knowledge of the fans here, the sporting fans, you could feel it when you're out there.
For many, the morning started with a coffee. Others preferred bubbles.
Cheers!
This year, there's a two-storey courtside bar.
Best of both worlds, drink in hand, watching the tennis.
But the privilege comes with a warning. Don't get too rowdy. Food is plentiful, curry and chips for this couple.
Delicious, Dom. Very good.
And while the players battle it out on the court, kids get a chance to have a hit too.
Aim is to hit my brother as much as I can.
Staying cool is a priority, and sunscreen is free.
Frankie, apparently they've increased shade by 300%. What do you think?
It's a lot better than last year. It beats the sun, yeah.
And for Nisha and Faze from Sydney, the AO opening day, a perfect way to celebrate their anniversary.
Yeah, we've been married for 15 years now.
By mid-afternoon, Melbourne Park was heaving.
Ticket sales today have been fairly significant, a lot more than we expected.
There's every reason to believe that we'll get over 1 million people coming here.
So what is the secret to cracking that magic million? Well, organisers say it's having more days exactly like this one. Not too hot, not too breezy, and blue skies.
So far, so good. What a way to kick off Australia's favourite Grand Slam. Reid Butler, 9 News.
And it is time now to check in on today's Sydney weather. Good evening, Belinda.
Evening, Pete. Another muggy day, but Sydney-side is finally getting some relief. A southerly change arriving last night. Fresh southeasterlies sweeping in this afternoon. Those onshore winds also bringing some scattered showers. Shanes Park recording the highest rainfall with 22 millimetres, 20 for North Parramatta, but so far just over a millimetre for the city. It was our coolest day in more than a week. The city stopping at 26.7, but felt a little warmer thanks to the muggy conditions in our west. Penrith reaching a top of 27.9, about 3 degrees below the January average. The Bureau is expecting more showers tonight, and we could get a storm with heavy falls possible for coastal suburbs. I'll be back with the forecast after Sport, Pete.
Belinda, thank you. Next in the news, waterfall rescue. A woman slips and falls 5 metres in Sydney's southwest. The race to save the Yagoona Community Centre from a fierce fire. An Arctic blast sweeps the United States, freezing fields and footballers. And Sam Kerr's one request to fans after undergoing knee surgery. There was a careful rescue operation in our southwest this morning after a woman fell 5 metres down a waterfall. The woman in her 30s was swimming at Mermaid Pools near Tamor when she slipped, suffering cuts and bruises. She was winched out with the Toll ambulance helicopter and flown to Liverpool Hospital in a stable condition. A popular community centre in Yagoona has been partially damaged by fire. Emergency crews were called to Cooper Road just before 2 this morning to find the outside of the building well alight. The blaze is not being treated as suspicious and is believed to have started inside a kitchen. A driver involved in a crash in Bankstown has walked away uninjured despite the front of his vehicle being completely smashed in. While the truck sustained minimal damage in the accident on Wattle Street, police and tow trucks helped remove the car from the road. A life-threatening cold is sweeping across America. The Arctic blast leaving millions at risk as temperatures near new records. The country is facing weather alerts coast to coast, and nothing is immune, from presidential campaigns to football playoffs.
21 degrees below zero, and on the football field, this is history.
Fourth coldest NFL playoff game.
One of the coldest playoff games to ever be held. Kansas City welcoming Miami and Taylor Swift to the big freeze.
And yes, she's here. Watch, it looks like a Taylor video.
35 states across America are tonight on alert. The country shivering through an intense and dangerous cold. In Iowa, it's just 2 days until the all-important caucus.
Good, it's cold here in Iowa.
America's first opportunity to vote, but presidential campaigns are facing cold weather chaos. Donald Trump has been forced to put 3 of his 4 scheduled rallies on ice amid the warning to anyone outside, in this weather, it only takes 10 minutes for frostbite to take hold.
You have the worst weather, I guess, in recorded history, but maybe that's good because our people are more committed than anybody else.
It's hard to describe how bitterly cold it feels. Here in Omaha, with the wind chill, the temperatures are getting down to minus 41 degrees. That's more than 2 times colder than a deep freezer. More than 1,100 flights have been cancelled across the country. When you look at this runway, it's not hard to see why. Americans are used to the cold in these parts, but this is a cold on a whole new scale. In Omaha, Nebraska, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
At least 33 people have been killed in a mudslide in Colombia. 35 others were injured when the avalanche of dirt blanketed a busy road in the west of the country. Rescuers are still searching for people who may be buried. A huge fire has engulfed a warehouse in the Russian city of St. Petersburg. The flames spread over 70,000 square metres, with almost 300 firefighters called in to battle the blaze. No injuries have been reported. In just a moment, a costly hotel outburst at Hyde Park, the huge fine for a guest who hurled an ironing board and more from his 5-star suite. Taiwan's election result sends a blunt message to Beijing. We meet the temperature guy behind these daily water updates at Manly Beach. See what happens when the world's fastest man jumps in the world's fastest car. Taiwan has sent a strong message to Beijing after re-electing the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. In nearly 30 years of democracy on the island, voters have granted a political party a 3rd term, one that rejects reunification with China.
Supporters of the Democratic Progressive Party celebrating an historic victory. Lai Ching-te leading the DPP to an unprecedented 3rd term. The new president thanking the Taiwanese people and pledging to stand up to threats from Beijing, which claims the island as its own, further entrenching tensions with China for another 4 years.
We are a country. We are the light of the world. We love freedom. We love democracy.
Opposition Kuomintang leader Hu Yui conceded defeat with an apology. I did not work hard enough, he told supporters. I let everyone down. I'm sorry. It's a rebuke for his party, which had called for closer ties with China after a decade of military threats and economic coercion. China has already dismissed the poll as not reflecting the will of the people, saying its will on achieving national reunification is rock solid. It also warned Canberra over any miscalculations in its relationship with Taiwan's new government.
Obviously, we don't want to see any disruption to the status quo on the Taiwan Strait. That's been a long-standing position of Australian governments of both political persuasions.
Under Taiwan's first-past-the-post voting system, the DPP received just 40% of the vote. After 8 years of majority government, it will have to find support from a minor party to pass legislation. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
The man who trashed a five-star hotel room in the city after taking ice has been slapped with a hefty fine. Tong Ming Lu was staying at the Sheraton Grand at Hyde Park in late December when he flooded his room and threw items out the window, including a smoke alarm and ironing board. A court has ruled he must pay $100,000 in damages to the hotel and another $1,000 for common assault. A poorly timed U-turn has ended badly for a driver in Melbourne after his Toyota hatchback veered into the path of a westbound tram.
Spencer Street.
Oh.
11, 48, 96.
Alright, everyone get off. Everyone get off.
Fortunately, no one was injured in the crash, but tram services on the route were suspended for an hour. There's a welcome boost coming for regional New South Wales, with 125 extra paramedics due to arrive by the middle of the year. Port Macquarie, Lismore, Goulburn, Mudgee and Broken Hill are among the 11 locations being proposed. The first group is starting 6-week induction programs this month. Before the surfers, swimmers and joggers flock to Manly Beach, Guy Dunstan is busy creating a mural of the water temperature of the day. Nicknamed Temperature Guy, he has become a local legend with his daily chalk artworks, bringing the Northern Beaches community closer together in the process.
Many have a morning routine, but for Guy Dunstan, it's not a skincare regime or yoga. It's getting up at 4 a.m. and wandering down to his local Manly Beach to take the water temperature.
I put the bait bucket in the water, then the barbecue thermometer, and it's instant, so the accuracy is very strong.
He then gets to work with his colourful chalk to display the number of the day.
I sort of see it a bit like it's my inner child getting to draw and colour in. When I take the temperature, it's like I'm taking the heartbeat of the ocean and then putting it on a pillar for everyone to see.
The former media consultant took over the daily task in August 2021 when members of the local swim group couldn't travel due to COVID lockdowns.
I used to do it, but I just used to do a quick scrawl up on the concrete, and I came back to find that he'd been doing some serious artwork, and so he got the job permanently.
Oh, I just love it. The temperature is very important to us, and it's always interesting to see his take on how his artwork.
A different image every day, and sometimes they include a little hidden message for a friend.
Me and my husband are going through a hard time. He's got terminal cancer, and he even drew a little safety net by the temperature, and that was pretty much to say, said, you know, that's for you, that we're looking out for you.
Now a strong advocate for mental health awareness in the workplace, Guy's daily creations have become a part of his own journey with mental health.
When I started this, I was going through a pretty dark time in my life, and the community really stepped up and supported me.
He's doing it for us, and to see him there, it just makes us all feel more connected.
Guy started filming and posting his creations on social media in August, and within just a few weeks had started racking up over 15,000 views on some of his posts.
What I've worked out is that if you just do something little but you do it with love, people respond. I see this as a massive privilege, and I haven't had one morning yet that I've woken up and not wanted to come down, which is pretty cool for a job that doesn't pay anything.
In Manly, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
Sam Kerr has posted a photo to Instagram from her hospital bed. The Matildas captain underwent surgery to repair her anterior cruciate ligament after tearing it during training in Morocco. She said she is now on the road to recovery and has requested Netflix recommendations from fans. The world's fastest man has met his match in car form. Usain Bolt taking a ride in a record-breaking electric Formula race car ahead of the first E-race in Mexico City. The car charged to 100 metres in 4.36 seconds, just over 5 seconds faster than Bolt's 100-metre sprint record. Ahead in 9 News, parents love them. Fresh calls for the return of back-to-school vouchers that save Sydney families hundreds. The workers who could soon get an extra week's annual leave. James joins us with sport from the Australian Open. James, it's a blockbuster opening night.
It certainly is. Welcome back. Good evening to you, Pete. Both our defending champions are on court here tonight. Novak Djokovic headlining the action. Our preview is next. Plus a full wrap of day one highlights. Ball kids in the firing line as an Aussie qualifier showed he's one to watch. How Steve Smith convinced sceptical test selectors he's ready to open the batting. Plus the Socceroos copper rev up from Graham Arnold after their Asian Cup opener.
And Sydney is in for a wet start to the week. Today's rain, just a taste of what's coming.
Welcome back to Melbourne Park, where the Stars will be out on the first night of the Australian Open. Both the men's and women's champions from last year kicking off their title defences. Todd Woodbridge joins me right now. Good to see you, Todd, as always.
Good evening, James.
Novak Djokovic, first up on court tonight. What are we expecting from the 10-time champion?
Well, he comes off a magnificent season last year, winning 3 out of the 4 majors. He's the favourite coming into the tournament, but this is going to be a fantastic match because he takes on an 18-year-old Dino Priznik of Croatia, who's one of the young stars and guns coming into our game. He's the French Open junior champion. He qualified here, and so what we're seeing is the best at the top of their game and the next ones that are coming along, so he'll be challenged.
Straight after the men's, Aryna Sabalenka out there to begin her title defence as well.
Yes, she takes on Ella Seidel of Germany. She's been in pretty good form, had a wonderful year as well, and I mean, how good is it that we've got both defending champions opening the night session on a Sunday? It's been an incredible atmosphere here. I think both of them will go through, but we've both got some tough ones to start with.
All right, big night ahead for you. I'll let you go. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, James.
Todd Woodbridge joining us here at Melbourne Park. We're on the opening day. Little-known Australian Dane Sweeney managed to steal the show, almost causing a major upset, pushing Francisco Cerundolo in a 5-set thriller.
At Melbourne Park, but missing in action for a second straight year, an injured Nick Kyrgios no longer the main attraction on court. Taking centre stage, Aussie Grand Slam debutant Dane Sweeney, who was pushing himself to the limit.
And then, hello, how you going? Oh, whoa.
Sweeney saying sorry to the ball kid before this Leighton Hewitt lookalike showed his class.
Oh, yes.
A fighter just like Australia's last men's #1, Sweeney's determination wasn't enough to upset 22nd seed Francisco Cerundolo.
And he finishes it off with a ripping forehand winner.
World #4 Yannick Sinner progressed in straight sets and gave insight into his relationship with his Australian coach Darren Cahill.
Yeah, we have a good relationship, but we still be apart a little bit. He's getting more Italian slowly, so we try to teach him. We try to teach him what kind of pasta is good to eat and what not. So.
Matteo Berrettini's Oz Open campaign is over before it began. The former Wimbledon finalist withdrawing from his round 1 match against Stefanos Tsitsipas with a fresh foot injury. And it took women's world #8 Maria Sakkari just over an hour to advance to the second round. Zach Bailey, 9 News.
Steve Smith insists he's ready to face the music as test opener, confident his switch won't be a temporary one. Smith has also revealed selectors were sceptical at first when he offered to replace long-time teammate David Warner.
From middle order maestro to test opener, Steve Smith has been contemplating this switch far longer than initially suspected.
I might have even floated in England. I don't think they sort of took me seriously until I got to Sydney, and I was like, no, I'm actually being genuine here.
The #4 convinced that a move up the order will suit his game and impatient nature.
I don't like waiting to bat, like I never really have, and I actually don't like watching cricket that much, believe it or not. I prefer to be out there batting.
Despite the challenges that come with facing the new ball and squaring off against more aggressive fields, Smith isn't planning for this to be a temporary transition.
Nah, I don't like thinking that way, so I don't want to think negative thoughts at all. Yeah, perfect to get in early and face the music. For right now, we've got what we believe is our best 6 batters playing, and I'm slotting in up top.
Ex-players, fans and even teammates have been sceptical, but Smith's decision eases 2 headaches for selectors, giving highly rated all-rounder Cameron Green a more comfortable road back into the Aussie 11.
For me, it didn't sort of sit right having him come in and bat up top. You know, I've played for a long time and I'm an experienced player, and I think it's something that I should have done.
The first test against the West Indies on Wednesday will begin a new chapter for Australian cricket that Smith hopes could last for years to come.
You know, I don't have a date in mind of when I want to finish up playing, so I'm just taking it game by game.
Nicole Dunn, 9 News.
He's Australia's most prolific run scorer in T20 internationals, but Aaron Finch's final Big Bash knock didn't go to plan. The retiring veteran out for a duck when he skied one to good mate Glenn Maxwell at mid-off. Fellow opener Sean Marsh's unbeaten 64, helping the Renegades to a 6-wicket win over the Stars before announcing he too would be retiring after Wednesday's match against the Thunder. The Socceroos were below their best but did enough to kick off their Asian Cup campaign with a win. Australia had 28 shots on goal and over 70% possession, but only beat 104th ranked India 2-0.
We can improve on everything, and the boys know that. We have our standards, and I have high expectations for the players and their performances, and those expectations and standards need to be met.
Next up for Australia, Syria on Thursday night. Sydney FC left their fight back too late to take any points from the A-League's Unite round. Adelaide winning 4-3 despite the Sky Blues scoring twice in the last 15 minutes. Sydney sits 8th after 12 matches. The other game of the doubleheader at Allianz Stadium ended in a draw. Central Coast scoring an 89th minute equaliser against Melbourne Victory to move into top 4. Manchester City is hot on the heels of Premier League leaders Liverpool, coming from a goal down to beat Newcastle 3-2. City's winner came in injury time, moving the defending champions into second, just 2 points behind the Reds. The Sydney Kings have snapped a 3-game losing streak in style too, defeating the Breakers 105-76 at Kudos Bank Arena. Import Jalen Adams top scoring with 39 points, but it was Jalen Galloway who scored the basket of the day with this huge dunk in the third quarter. The win puts the Kings back into 4th on the NBL ladder. And with their season on the line as the NFL playoffs began, even a frozen moustache couldn't distract Kansas City coach Andy Reid. He orchestrated a dominant 26-7 win over Miami as the Chiefs advanced to the AFC divisional round for the 6th straight season. The reigning Super Bowl champions may run into the red-hot Texans next week. Houston thumping Cleveland Browns 45-14 to keep their title dreams alive as well. Pete, great to see you back in the chair looking fresh and ready for a massive year, and it's a massive night of tennis for you as well from 7 o'clock.
We'll see you, James, straight after the news. Thank you. Next in the news, the link between long COVID and heart problems, the symptoms seeing a rush to GPs, the fight to get back to school vouchers back for parents, and the Sydney workers getting extra annual leave. Queensland doctors are raising the alarm over an increasing number of people with heart problems caused by long COVID. While symptoms vary, the condition can cause shortness of breath and a higher risk of stroke and heart attack.
10% of people who have a COVID infection go on to have long COVID, and these are symptoms that persist beyond 12 weeks.
Medical experts say the best option is for people to be up to date with vaccines. Good news tonight for retail employees, with more companies pushing for 5 weeks of paid annual leave. IKEA and Bunnings employees already get 25 days off with no change to wages. The retail union says negotiations are underway for the same deal for workers at Kmart, Coles and Woolworths. The state government is under growing pressure to reinstate back-to-school vouchers as families struggle to afford uniforms, books and other supplies. The situation is so bad, more households are turning to social services for help to meet the costs.
2 weeks out from the start of school and the scramble for supplies has begun. This year, though, parents are feeling the pinch a little more than usual.
I've got 2 kids at school, so yeah, it's really hard.
Mums Sonia and Amy say each child will cost them hundreds of dollars.
Probably close to $300, I suppose, by the time you buy school shoes, joggers, backpacks, pencil cases.
Even like school shoes, like they're over $100 just for a pair of school shoes, and I need 2 plus sports shoes and then everything else on top of that.
This is an example of a shopping list supplied to primary school students. Alone, it will set you back more than $100. That's not including book packs or uniforms. The rising costs prompting social service organisations to call for the government to reinstate its back-to-school voucher program for low-income households.
Now is a time for more support, not less. That's why we're asking for the New South Wales government to re-implement the back-to-school voucher, targeting it at those doing it toughest.
And parents agree.
It would be really beneficial if they were to come back.
It'd be amazing. Definitely help parents and just be able to give all the kids the same sort of things across the board.
Families across Australia are expected to spend $3.6 billion on school supplies this year alone. That's excluding additional costs like tuition fees and excursions. The government scrapped the $350 vouchers in its budget last year.
We recognise that the government is struggling to maintain a balanced budget, but now is not the time to be making life tougher.
Our budget has $8.1 billion of targeted measures designed to address the cost of living pressures that families are facing.
And they're not ruling out bringing them back in the future.
It's a top priority for our government, and it's certainly something that we will address.
Basilia Eiley, 9 News.
Coming up in 9 News, Belinda with the weather for the week ahead.
Thank you, Pete. Right now it's 24 degrees in the city and a cooler 22 in our west. More showers tonight and Sydney's in for a soaking over the next few days. I'll have the forecast for you next.
Around here, bushfire is just a part of life. We've been through it before, and we'll get through it again. The people here all look out for each other. We're a community that does its bit to plan and prepare, to keep everyone safe. We live with bushfire, so we live bushfire ready.
Welcome back. A bit of a mixed bag of weather for Sydney today. Cloudy skies with some sunny spells, showers and fresh southeasterly winds. That southerly change bringing a drop in temperatures up to 3 degrees below the January average in our west, reaching the high 20s, and the city only stopping at 27. So far, Shanes Park getting the biggest drenching, recording 22 millimetres, 20 for North Parramatta, but only 1.2 for the city. That number likely to shoot up tonight. The Bureau says there's a very high chance of showers and maybe a storm which could be severe, possibly bringing heavy falls to coastal suburbs. Right now across New South Wales there are some isolated thunderstorms over the northern and southern interior, damaging winds and heavy rainfall possible in those warning areas. Isolated showers along the coast today. The southerlies bringing cooler temperatures to the south coast, a top of just 21 in Bega. Tomorrow a deep trough and onshore winds continuing to drive showers and storms over our state. A wet start to the week for Brisbane and Canberra as well, staying fine for day 2 of the tennis with a top of 28 degrees and another hot and sunny day ahead for Adelaide and Perth. Back home in a soggy day for coastal New South Wales, especially from the central coast down to Batemans Bay. Widespread falls of 15 to 50 millimetres, but some areas possibly receiving more than 100. Isolated showers and thunderstorms over inland parts with heavy falls possible about the far west. Daytime temperatures close to average along the western and northern borders and below average elsewhere. Low to mid-20s along the coast with some fresh and gusty winds. A strong wind warning is in place for coastal waters between Port Macquarie and the Illawarra. That includes Sydney. Heavy rain expected in the morning and in the afternoon with light showers lingering into the evening. There's also the chance of a thunderstorm early in the morning, possibly severe with heavy falls. 7 to 45 millimetres forecast to fall across the city Sydney Basin. We might even need a jumper. Tops in our west up to 9 degrees colder than usual for this time of year, only reaching 22 or 23 in the city, just a tad warmer, climbing to 24. The rain clouds hanging around for most of the week, a further 2 to 30 millimetres on Tuesday, warming up into the high 20s again on Wednesday. Friday, the pick of the week, mostly sunny and 28. At this stage, a few showers about next weekend, heating up to 36 in our west on Sunday, up to 80 millimetres falling over the next 3 days, with a possible storm on Thursday. It seems like El Nino is also on holidays, Pete.
Belinda, thank you. The Australian Open is next. That is 9 News for this Sunday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.